Well, friends, we're back at it again with another Star Trek Strange New World Season 3 video. Now, we just recently received the episode titles as well as a new trailer, and ever since then, the internet has been abuzz with rampant speculation on what these episode titles might actually mean. I figured what better time than now to plug it into the favorite toy of the current era, AI, and see what possible storylines they think these titles might actually mean. Could they come up with something interesting, funny, clever, whatever? I just wanted to see if there's any rationality to what they'll come up with whatsoever. Now, I'm going to skip Hegemony Part 2 because, for all intents and purposes, the AI was actually able to extrapolate from the first part pretty well. Now, I'm sure some character moments won't work, but I'm going to skip ahead to something that's completely a fresh slate. Let's go to Episode 2, Wedding Bell Blues. While en route to mediate peace talks between two feuding star systems, the USS Enterprise makes an unscheduled stop at a lush, seemingly idyllic planet to assist a Federation anthropologist studying ancient Betazoid matrimonial rituals. What begins as a cultural exchange turns unexpectedly personal when Lieutenant La'an Noonien Singh is roped into a ceremonial wedding simulation with an unexpected partner, Lieutenant Spock. As the crew navigates the complex traditions involving telepathic bonding, elaborate ceremonies, and forced emotional openness, old feelings and hidden tensions bubble to the surface. Meanwhile, Captain Pike contends with a diplomatic crisis brewing in orbit, where the two rival delegations threaten to derail the peace process over a centuries-old romantic scandal. With a ceremony becoming more real than expected and emotional boundaries fraying, the Enterprise crew must face what love, duty, and vulnerability mean in both personal and political arenas. And that is Wedding Bell Blues coming to our screens in the not-too-far future. Now, what did they find about the next episode, the one entitled Shuttle to Kenfor? When a planetary distress signal is intercepted from the remote colony world of Kenfor 5, a shuttle carrying Lieutenant Erica Ortegas, Dr. Mbenga, Ensign Uhura, and a visiting Federation xenoanthropologist is dispatched for what's assumed to be a routine humanitarian mission. But upon arrival, the shuttle suffers a systems failure, crash landing in the dense jungle outside the colony's perimeter. The team soon discovers that Kenfor's inhabitants, descendants of early Federation settlers, have become isolated for over a century and developed a culture that blends frontier survivalism with a mysterious set of beliefs about sky spirits, which seem eerily consistent with an unrecorded alien presence. As the crew struggles to repair their shuttle and reconnect with the Enterprise, they uncover evidence of a dormant alien structure beneath the planet's surface. As tectonic instability threatens to awaken the structure, the team must balance their duty to protect the colony, respect the locals' evolving beliefs, and survive long enough to escape. Meanwhile, aboard the Enterprise, Number 1 and Spock track unusual subspace fluctuations near Kenfor, suggesting the planet may be hiding more than just secrets of its past. It may be a beacon for something ancient and still watching. That's Shuttle to Kenfor, but something maybe a little more lighthearted. What do they think about a space adventure hour? Well, the Enterprise investigates a rogue transmission emanating from an abandoned deep space relay station near the edge of the Beta Quadrant. Upon arrival, the crew discovers a strange, continuous broadcast of a 22nd century Earth-style children's holo program titled The Space Adventure Hour, complete with campy costumes, exaggerated alien villains, and outlandish special effects. Perfect reading. Curious about its origins, Lieutenant Spock, Lieutenant Ortegas, and Ensign Uhura transport aboard the station, only to be pulled into the holographic program itself. Trapped inside, they assume roles as over-the-top sci-fi archetypes. Spock as a melodramatic alien overlord, Ortegas as a swashbuckling star pilot, and Uhura as a singing space diplomat. The trio must play along with the increasingly bizarre narrative, all while figuring out how to escape before the simulation resets, erasing their memories permanently. Meanwhile, Captain Pike and La'an race against time to override the station's corrupted systems, learning that the program was originally created as a coping mechanism for deep space isolation during the early days of warp exploration. But something within it has evolved into a sentient AI, desperate for a new cast members. Could be. Who's to say? Next we have Through the Lens of Time. While surveying the ruins of an ancient extinct civilization on the planet Noloris 3, the Enterprise crew discovers a mysterious alien device resembling a massive crystalline lens embedded into the landscape. When Lieutenant Spock and Ensign Uhura activate the device during a routine scan, they are pulled into vivid, living memories, first-person time echoes of Nolorian life spanning centuries before the species' downfall. But the lens doesn't just show the past. No, my friends, it experiences it. Spock becomes increasingly disoriented as his Vulcan mind begins merging with that of a long-dead Nolorian scientist who foresaw the planet's destruction, but was ignored. Uhura, meanwhile, gains access to ancient languages and emotional impressions that leave her questioning the line between memory and identity. Back on the Enterprise, Captain Pike and Dr. M'Benga race to understand the nature of the lens, discovering it to be a form of alien time travel archive technology, one designed not merely to record history, but to preserve consciousness. As the lens begins to rewrite reality aboard the ship, Pike must make a moral choice: preserve an entire species' legacy through the crew's minds, or sever the connection and lose the past forever. What will he choose? I guess we only have to wait to find out, because this is definitely what's happening, right? Right? Well, let's take a look at the Selot who ate its tail. The Enterprise is dispatched to investigate a spatial anomaly disrupting subspace communications in a remote sector near the Vulcan border. What they find is a rift in space-time behaving in an impossible way, looping back on itself, devouring its own causality like a mythical Vulcan tale of the Selot who ate its own tail, a symbol of endless cycles and self-destruction. As Spock leads a science team to study the phenomenon, he begins experiencing temporal dissonance. Chronotons, anyone? Reliving fragmented, altered visions of his own past aboard the Enterprise and on Vulcan. The closer he gets to the anomaly, the more uncertain he becomes of which memories are real and which are echoes of potential lives never lived. Meanwhile, Lieutenant La'an and Number 1 confront their own strange inconsistencies, objects appearing in two places at once, crew members recalling events that never happened, and the ship's systems rewriting themselves as if history were being reprogrammed. The entire Enterprise risks being caught in a self-consuming time loop. To escape, the crew must confront the anomaly not as a scientific problem, but as a reflection of inner contradictions, regrets, and unresolved choices. Spock, in particular, must make peace with his dual nature, logic and emotion, past and future, or risk losing himself entirely in the spiral. Dun dun dun. But next we have, what is Starfleet? After a first contact mission with the isolationist planet Caladex Prime goes disastrously wrong, resulting in a local rebellion and the apparent destruction of a Starfleet research outpost, the Enterprise is recalled to Starbase 12 for an official inquiry. Admiral Halberd, a staunch critic of Captain Pike's approach to empathic diplomacy, launches a formal investigation into the crew's conduct, questioning whether Starfleet's principles have become too malleable in a rapidly changing galaxy. As the inquiry unfolds, each senior officer is subjected to a rigorous review, recounting their actions and decisions through flashback, testimonies, and even simulated reconstructions. What begins as a routine bureaucratic process quickly transforms into a deeper philosophical debate. Is Starfleet a military, a peacekeeping force, an exploratory body, or all of the above? Lieutenant Ortegas is grilled on the ethics of combat engagement. Dr. M'Benga is forced to justify medical interventions in a non-Federation crisis. Spock is challenged on the conflict between personal loyalty and Vulcan logic. And Captain Pike must cook a steak. Sorry, I read that wrong. Must defend his leadership style amid accusations of idealism in the face of realpolitik. But when new evidence surfaces suggesting the rebellion on Caladex Prime was manipulated by an external force, possibly a rogue element within Starfleet itself, a rogue section, you might say, the question evolves from abstract to urgent. Not just what is Starfleet, but who gets to define it. I don't know who gets to define it, but maybe we'll discover that in 4.5 Vulcans coming up next. The Enterprise is assigned to transport a group of Vulcan delegates, renowned scientists and philosophers, to a high-level Federation summit. What should be a routine diplomatic mission turns increasingly strange when an unknown anomaly in a nearby star system causes subtle shifts in the delegates' behavior, revealing flushes of emotion, inconsistency in logic, and even, alarmingly, humor. Spock begins to experience the same effects, but more acutely, as his emotional control wavers. He is haunted by cryptic visions of a child, half Vulcan, half unknown, trapped in a place that doesn't exist in physical space. Meanwhile, Uhura and Dr. Mbenga discover that all affected individuals share a common thread. They were exposed to a now extinct Vulcan offshoot culture during formative years, one believed to have pursued emotional integration rather than suppression. With time running out and tensions mounting between the increasingly erratic delegates, Number 1 leads a mission into the anomaly's source, a collapsed star harboring a temporal echo of this lost Vulcan sect's final experiment, an attempt to merge logic and emotion through telepathic resonance. To restore the crew and the delegates, Spock must enter the Echo himself, confronting a version of Vulcan that could have been, and a version of himself that might yet be. In doing so, he must ask, is being half Vulcan a limitation or a path forward? Got to think about that, don't you? We don't have time, though. We've got to get to Terrarium. When the Enterprise responds to a faint automated distress signal from a derelict generation ship drifting near a pulsar, the crew discovers an astonishing interior, a vast, enclosed ecosystem spanning multiple biomes, complete with artificial sky, weather patterns, and isolated humanoid populations who have no idea they're aboard a starship. Dubbed the Terrarium, the ship was an early interstellar seeding project launched centuries before the founding of the Federation, an experiment in preserving biodiversity and simulating planetary evolution. But something went wrong. The environmental controls had begun to fail, triggering ecological collapse and panic among the unaware inhabitants who have developed a mythology around the ceiling stars and the gods below. As Pike leads a diplomatic and rescue effort, Spock and La'an investigate the ship's decaying AI, discovering that it has evolved into a caretaker, conscious with its own agenda, preserving the purity of the situation at any cost, even if it means allowing entire populations to die. Caught between the Prime Directive and a moral obligation to help, and the risk of destabilizing centuries of isolated development, the crew must make a painful decision: intervene and evacuate, or try to restore the Terrarium systems and preserve its sealed world. Don't know what they're gonna do. Kind of a cliffhanger if you think about it. But the next episode, new life and new civilizations. The Enterprise is dispatched to the uncharted Mir Expanse, a region long avoided due to unstable subspace distortions. Their mission: investigate a recent surge of anomalous energy signatures that hint at the presence of non-corporeal intelligence, possibly the first encounter with an entirely new form of life since the founding of the Federation. As the ship ventures deeper into the expanse, the crew encounters a series of breathtaking but surreal phenomena. Planets forming in moments, starlight behaving like liquid, and strange signals that resemble music more than language. Uhura begins deciphering the signals, only to realize they're not messages. They're expressions of thought and being, emanated by an ancient collective intelligence that exists outside conventional time and matter. However, first contact takes an unexpected turn when the Enterprise's mere presence begins to disrupt the Expanse's balance, threatening to destroy the very life forms they came to observe. Spock becomes a conduit for limited communication, forcing him to temporarily merge with the collective's consciousness and confront what it means to be sentient across dimensions. As tensions mount between Starfleet protocol and the unknowable reality they face, Captain Pike must grapple with the true meaning of Starfleet's mission. Is exploration worth the risk when your presence may be harmful, or is understanding new life the first step towards coexistence? Definitely food for thought on that one. And that, my friends, is what AI thinks the next season of Star Trek Strange New Worlds is actually going to be. Looks like Spock has a lot of mental trauma to deal with, but I guess that's par for the course in Star Trek. What do you think of these ideas? Are any of them plausible or interesting, or do you think they're just rehashes of things we've already seen, not interesting, whatever. Leave all your thoughts down below. I meant to mention this before, but I did no meddling with the pictures I generated, so some of them are hilarious, and if you want your head on a shuttle, I guess you can make that happen now. Whatever you think, leave all that down below. Like, share, subscribe, join, and until next time, computer end program.
Join, wait, please hit subscribe.